Today's guest is Mark Gray, and he's a man who wears many hats in the realm of creativity and entertainment. As the identity Eddie Ray, Mark's storytelling, music, and comedy have won awards, resonating with audiences at festivals across Australia. As T-Bone, he keeps the party alive as one half of the funk band Burger Joint, who I have to say are one of my all-time favorite bands. And his latest creation is called Silence of the Jams, which involves a recorded film being accompanied by his live band. From groundbreaking musical endeavours to innovative film clips, Mark's creativity is well-watered and his Wi-Fi free garden is flourishing. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, how you going?
Yeah, very well. It's great to have you on Beyond Turning Points.
Oh, I'm stoked to be here. Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, it's awesome.
And so you're on the sunny coast?
Yeah, in the hinterland, about an hour from the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in small little town up here, but yeah, it's beautiful, nice and quiet.
Yeah. And for those people that don't know, the sunny coast is the abbreviation for the Sunshine Coast, and that's on
That's right. Yeah.
the Queensland coast, which is on the eastern side of Australia, and very beautiful. I'm in Sydney, so I'm about probably 1,300 kilometers away. And so, Mark, you're for me, you're an artist, and you create art, not just music. There's theatrical performance, and your film clips. I've seen you create your own film clips as well, and they're definitely works of art as well. And there's always this piece which I find is that to be an artist takes the commitment. To actually live the life of a working artist takes a commitment. And I'm wondering about your turning point and how you came to be living the life of a true artist. And when I say true artist, I mean somebody that's truly committed to art and is living a life of producing, sharing art as their main way of living.
Yeah, it's a good question because I guess I've had so many turning points in my life. It's hard to kind of narrow it down to one defining moment. But I think a huge moment for me was when Amy and I got married. We were both, I was working for the government, and she was a teacher, and we'd bought a house, and we were doing all these things that, society tells you to do. And we were just obscenely unhappy, and we couldn't really work out what it was. And we were about to get married, and part of the lead up to that was having these meetings with the celebrant saying, when were you your happiest, and all these sort of things. And we started to realize that this whole scenario that we had built for ourselves, it wasn't who we were. We were just kind of trapped in this in the trap. And so we decided to just literally the day I got back from our honeymoon, I quit my job and just got a job at a camping shop, and we just saved up for a year, and we just went traveling. And I reckon we were about early 20s, like maybe 23 or 24 or something. And and so then we went traveling, and then we ended up in Darwin, and we were looking for somewhere to live, and Amy opened up the newspaper, and instead of finding somewhere to live, she said, "Oh, the local theatre is doing auditions for this play. We should go audition for this play." And so we'd just been in town for 5 seconds, didn't know anyone, and we auditioned for this play. And I, at this point, had really done no acting, so it's no surprise I didn't get the role. But Amy got a role in this play, and so we ended up, the first people we met in town were the arts crew. So we started getting involved in the theatre, and then I started going to local jam nights, and I just got hooked to this feeling of being creative and playing music and entertaining people. And I just realized there was this deep thing within me that I hadn't fed for my whole life, and it was always there, but I hadn't given it the space to grow. And yeah, the second we started getting into that, I realized this is who I am, and that other version of me that I was pretending to be, it's not me, and I guess I just felt this sort of, I guess this flame came inside of me, and I just went, I need to do this. I need to entertain and be silly and be fun, and yeah, sort of just snowballed from there. So yeah, that's probably the first one.
And was there, what was the hardest decision around taking that leap from government to camping store to travel and the arts?
Well, yeah, I mean, having a mortgage wasn't it wasn't easy to do that because we were flat broke. And it was just when the GFC was hitting, so everyone was telling me, you know, the very, very last thing you should do is quit your government job because we're about to hit this huge recession. And yeah, it went against everything I should have done, really. But we just thought we've got to do this because I guess we just grew up too quick. You know, all of our friends were off traveling and doing that stuff. And, you know, we bought this house when I was 21. So I was going to Bunnings on the weekends and doing all this, you know, stuff that you should probably be doing later in life. So
the youngest person
for me, it was just like, yeah, exactly. I was just like, I just need to find out what life is, you know, before I do all this other stuff. But it was hard because everyone was telling us that we were stupid to do it. And but yeah, I think it's one of those turning points where you just got to take the gamble and then just do it and just leave town with a couple of grand in the bank and hope for the best. So yeah.
And did you go in was that the truck? So because I remember at one point, yeah, which I think you still have, is a truck that you fitted out?
Yeah, no, the first time we went, we had this old 1987 Land Cruiser Troopy. So yeah, we bought that secondhand and yeah, fit our whole life into the back of the thing. We had a kayak on the roof and mountain bikes on the back and you know, rock climbing equipment. We just anything we could get in there, snorkels and, you know, anything we could do to have a life of adventure. So our aim was to stop at every national park and do every walk and climb every mountain and just see as much of Australia as we could. So it was yeah, it was very cool. And it's good to do it while you're young because yeah, we're always bumping into old people who are saying, oh, what's it like up there? I'd like to get up there, but my knee's gone, or, you know. So,
yeah, that makes sense to me, especially that.
Yeah,
I'm healthy, but I'm getting older, as we're all getting older. But I'm healthy, but I'm conscious. Like, wow, I really got to get in, make sure I do these things because it's just one of those inevitable things that parts of the body don't work as well as they used to.
Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to get that too. Just think, oh man, I wasn't ready for this.
yeah. I don't think anyone is, but it's how did you find that having that freedom and travel and having so much nature, how did that impact your relationship and you personally?
Oh, I mean, it was everything, you know, like we just had time to talk and figure out who we were as people and just, yeah, being in nature every day, swimming in creeks. And, you know, it was just the purest medicine possible. You know, it was just so life-changing, you know, because I was, you know, living in the city and catching the train to work. And I was living in such a urbanized kind of thing that just to get out into nature made me go, oh, this is what life's about, you know. And yeah, it was actually, I remember working on this when I was working in the city. I remember talking to a friend of mine and we were up on like the 14th floor. I remember like looking out at the you know, outside and going, this is so crazy, you know, we should be outside climbing trees. And it's like, Ames, can you please not make that noise there?
Sorry.
It's really, really, really noisy. Sorry.
I was just, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to edit that bit out.
Yeah. I'll
maybe
leave
close
it
the
in.
door too, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shut up. You can see how nicely we talk together.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, it would. Yeah. What was I saying?
14th floor.
Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah. And I remember I was on the 14th floor working in the city, and I'd get to work when it was dark. I'd leave home when it was dark, and the only sunlight I ever saw was when I'd go out for lunch. And I used to work through lunch. I'd go out and get a quick bite to eat. And I remember just saying, this is so unnatural. I feel like I'm getting sick because I'm not ever getting any sunlight. I'm not getting any fresh air. And, I just want to be climbing trees and being outside. And then the first job we got when we were traveling was working on this lychee farm. And my job was to climb the tree and get to the top of the tree to get the highest lychees. And I remember just having this moment of being on the top of this thing, and I was surrounded by lorikeets, and I went, I'm doing it. I'm doing this exact thing that I talked about, and it was, it was such an amazing feeling to realize that you can change your life and you can do these things. And yeah, it was so cool just to go, oh yeah, I'm climbing trees for a living now. Yeah, it was awesome.
Professional tree climber.
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so hard for people to shift out of that sort of structured work and then to, especially if there's this thing, how you're talking about the older people saying, oh, I wish I could go up there. Why do you think people get stuck in that for so long?
Oh, I think, yeah, debt's probably a massive one, isn't it? I think, the times when I've felt the most stuck is when I've had the most amount of debt over my head, I think. And I think if you get to a point where you feel like you can't make any changes, a lot of the time it's because you are sort of stuck. And I don't know, it's a tricky one, because I think it's easy to just talk about it, but we had to work 2 jobs for a year to save up just to try and get ahead a bit, and before we could start traveling. So it was kind of, I don't know, I think trying to have as little overheads as possible is the first way to try and make a change. But I don't know, I think it's so indoctrinated into us too, to have this sort of sense of contributing to society as well. And I don't know, it's a very multifaceted thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I'm trying to think. In my life, there's been a couple of times where I've literally cleared the decks and gone, right, get rid of everything, start again. And each time it's actually been really great to reduce my possessions down to not much. Literally, I moved to Sydney with my musical instruments and my laptop and clothes.
Awesome.
That was it. It all fit in my little Prius that I had then, and my stand-up paddleboard on the roof. And I thought everything I need to make a living is here in this car. And then that was reduced from a house. And the house actually, I was due to move out on the Monday, and the guy that was coming in to take over the lease, he said he was going to buy all my furniture as well. But for me, I had to have the house packed up by Saturday night because I had things on and whatever. But he went AWOL, and I was ringing the real estate agent saying, I haven't heard from this guy, because it was through the real estate agent. They said, no, he's just disappeared. And so my daughter and I jumped on Facebook Marketplace, and we sold the whole house in 24 hours. It was
Whoa.
amazing. It was amazing.
That's crazy.
We had so many people coming to the house for almost everything. And Pippi was doing all the marketplace listings and canceling them and doing the messages, and I was meeting all the people. And in 12 hours, the whole house from 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night, whole house gone. People just came in.
Whoa, that's wild.
It was amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, this is the way to do it. Just do it all.
Yeah, we're doing this. Yeah. So that's wild. That would have been a good feeling, though.
Oh, it's great. I was like, wow. And plus having money in my hand too. They're like, okay, I sold all this stuff probably for less than it was worth, but my priority was getting rid of it quickly. So you end up in Darwin, and part of your shows that I've seen is as far as your Eddie Ray work, so I mentioned in the intro there's different identities that you perform with, and so I think technology is a big message in your shows. Is that right?
Yeah, It's, so Eddie Ray is he's a heightened version of myself. So he's never had a smartphone. He doesn't do the internet. And so the shows are sort of talking about phone addiction and AI and things like that. Lots of Terminator references. But yeah, I mean, that's come from my own personal experience of just watching this technology grow and watching everyone sort of just jump headfirst into it. And I guess it started off when I was 14 and my best mate got a Nokia, like the old 3210. And we used to ride our bikes every afternoon and go down the BMX track and all that stuff. And then this one afternoon, we had to go down to the post office because he's got this package, and he pulled out this phone and he was so excited. And pretty much he was never the same afterwards, because he was always either playing Snake or texting his girlfriend, or his mum would call him in. And it was one of those moments where I went, hey, hang on, can't we just why has everything changed all of a sudden? Can't we just ride our bikes and just hang out? And so I ended up, from that moment, I never had a mobile phone until I had a girlfriend who was just so sick of having to call my home phone and talk to my mum that she just bought me one. And then I was that guy who never had credit on his phone, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be connected all the time. I wanted to just live in how things were, in real time. And and so progressively, as things got more and more hectic, I've just sort of seen everyone just sort of worshipping these things, And I remember seeing the first Apple store opening up and seeing everyone lining up down the street to get an iPhone. And I pulled up thinking that they were giving away something, that the local radio station was giving away Coca-Cola or something. I'm like, what's going on in here? And everyone's like, we're lining up to get the new iPhone. And I couldn't quite believe, this kind of worship of these devices. And and so I think it's just gotten more and more entrenched in society, and I feel like it's this thing that no one's talking about, but we're just not talking to each other anymore. We're not hanging out. We're not smiling at strangers. And because I don't have one, I sit there at the bus stop or waiting for a coffee, and I'm constantly looking around trying to start conversations with strangers. And I've just noticed how much it's really, really stopped us from engaging with one another. And I think it just seems to me like it's such a crazy, crazy shift in society that no one's talking about, because it's just the way it is now. So I feel like in some way, if I can make comedy shows about it, it might just make everyone go, oh yeah, my screen time is up a bit this week, or So
that's something I've noticed too, especially moving to a city like Sydney. So many people on their phones, and I'll often, if I'm on the bus, I look out the window, and I might be the only person looking out the window, and everybody else is on their phones. It's extraordinary, really. And it really is the sort of the matrix of what this portal through my phone, and that I'm accessing information, and especially algorithms, right? I'm accessing information, but it's based on my previous viewing. So it's not based on necessarily what I want to create. It's based on what I was interested in a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. And so it keeps feeding me content based on what I was interested in. And so, that's something I'll often do with my social media, is I want to hack my social media. So that it's giving me what I'm wanting to create in my life, so that instead of, let's say last month I was into teddy bears, right? And collecting teddy bears. And so if there's anything to do with teddy bears, I'll quickly swipe it away, because I'm telling the algorithm I'm not interested in teddy bears anymore. and I might be interested
Mm.
in surfing videos, right? So I want to see more of those, so I'll watch that for longer just to feed the algorithm the information I want it to have, rather than going, oh, here's what sells, here's what we know is appealing to most of the audience.
Yeah.
Do you do anything like that? I know you have Facebook because we're connected on on Facebook. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing you access Facebook from your laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try and have a sort of a work relationship with it, because I need to use it to promote shows and stuff. So I have to use it. And truth be told, I can't control myself. That's mainly why I don't have a smartphone, because I will sit there and just scroll for an hour and go, what was I doing again? And I really noticed that the lack of self-control around it. So my way of doing it is just block time and just go, I'm just going to be on here for half an hour, catch up on my messages, do the things. But you're absolutely right with the algorithms. That's one thing that I find really scary is, recently I just was scrolling through something, and it was someone came up. It was like a glamorous woman in an 80s film. I think it was like Weird Science or something, one of those films. And I hovered on the picture because I was like, oh, I remember that film. And then instantly the next scroll, I'm all these 80s movie nostalgia things coming up. And when I started looking at it, I thought, hang on, I don't even have my friends on here. These are all just suggested for you, and and so yeah, your whole feed just gets completely taken over by the algorithms, and you sort of have no control over what you see, unless, like you're a bit more in tune with it, and you can make it work. But I just have to put a time limit on it and just not look at it for too long, because yeah, the next thing I know, I'll be watching some YouTube video about weird science or something. And, it's 2 a.m, and I think, what what have I done?
Yeah, it's
So,
amazing
yeah.
how addictive it is. And I see, I don't use TikTok anymore, but I was using it for a little while because I thought I'll use that platform for work and promoting whatever I'm doing. And I'm still open to going back to TikTok, but I found it so quick at assessing what I was looking at. And then within 1 or 2 swipes, it would just be giving me more and more and more. And I was like, wow, this algorithm is so advanced. And I also remember Instagram, when Instagram first started. I think I started using Instagram maybe 2011 or something like that. It's like really early, because I love photos and I loved seeing all my friends' photos. And then I remember Instagram went from being a chronological feed showing the latest photos to the oldest ones, and then showing me the most popular photos. And that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to see my friends and oh, right, oh, they're down the road right now, I'm going to go and see them. But it changed to the most
Yeah.
popular. And then I see now on Instagram, like you were talking about, is that a lot of videos will be from the most popular profiles, not the profiles of my friends. And they're actually the things I want to see is what my friends are doing, more than I want to see the teddy bear collectible convention, right? So, so
Yeah.
do you want to have a chat about Leader of the Resistance, which is your stage show? Is that right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, so Leader of the Resistance was, it started off with me talking about my friend with 3210. And then what happened was I found this phone, and then the phone had the voice of the Terminator from the Terminator films. So the whole film, the whole theater piece was about how the Nokia had traveled back in time to save humanity, and it was just a massive Terminator 2 ripoff, really.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and then the iPhone played the bad guy and had the voice of Siri, and there was this big monologue how the robots are going to take over the world, but not through killer robots, but by slowly just grinding us down. Like every time an assignment's due, your hard drive crashes, and every time you try and make a call, the internet drops out, and eventually we're all just going to get so worn down by technology that we just give up. So and then it ended with me having a fight scene with a telephone, which I think is the first fight scene with a telephone in a show so far. So yeah, it was lots of fun, but it was mainly just it was a silly show. But I was surprised how many people would come up afterwards and say first thing they did when they came out of the show was to reach for their phone, and then they went, no, I don't need to. And it just started all these conversations with people. So what went from a very, very silly show ended up, yeah, just having these really intense conversations with people. And people still talk to me to this day about it. People send me messages saying, you'll be happy to know I just got rid of my iPhone. And, so it actually became this thing that really started some serious conversations with people, which, yeah, sort of blew me away because it was only just a silly show to start with. But yeah.
Yeah. And how do you feel about AI? And I don't know, do you know much about AI as far as what's progressing or anything like that?
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit. I think my initial my initial thought was I don't want to know anything about this because it terrifies me, because I grew up watching a lot of Terminator. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because some people are saying, well, the thing I find interesting is that we always thought it would take away manufacturing jobs, and we always thought it would take away those sort of things, but never in a million years did we think that it would be taking creative jobs and, taking artists' jobs or screenwriters or actors. And I think that's what's taken everyone by surprise, because I think everyone thought in the creative arts world, well, we'll always have that, and then, so I think it's really shaken people up. And I know people who use it as a tool. And I know a lot of people who use it as a tool, and it's sort of just another thing in the toolbox to use to be creative and to make cool art. But yeah, I don't know. The more it progresses, the more I'm starting to think there's going to be a time in our lifetime where we don't know what the truth is anymore. We don't know what's a deep fake, and we don't know what's a real news article, and we don't know what is the news anymore, because it's all just so doctored and strange, and you really have to discern what you're looking at these days. And so I think I'm just focusing more on life away from the internet, and having face-to-face conversations with people, because I think the way it's heading, I don't know, it kind of terrifies me a little bit. I don't know, how are you with it?
I'm good with AI as far as accepting of what's coming and what I'm aware of so far, if that makes sense. So, in my field, I'm aware of certain things with AI. I use AI every day. And as far as the language generation AI, the image generation AI, but I know that all I'm doing is telling the computer in a language that it understands to create an image that I have in my head. I'm not actually using my hands, and that's very different for me. It's as if I'm writing a song and I just say to the AI, create a nursery rhyme about ducks, and the AI creates the nursery rhyme and go, oh, that's a cool nursery rhyme. I created that. Well, I had the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I really enjoy working with the AI, and I'm using it in lots of really interesting ways, as far as anything from experimenting with hypothetical therapy situations. And so, for example, this morning I said, can you perform the role of Dr. John DeMartini doing a session with somebody who has concerns about money, right? And are there any questions to help you optimize this task? And so then it gives me back these questions. Oh, what kind of issues is this person having? And so I get a very sort of, it's an interactive exchange because I'm asking it, do you have any questions? Right. And then it performs the role of Dr. John DeMartini. And for those who don't know Dr. John DeMartini, he's a philosopher. He's also a human potential instructor and written over 40 books, and amazing man. But he literally took on the voice of his books and took me through processes that I know were very John DeMartini like. And there was an interaction in between, and it would ask me, so it would give me some information, then it would ask me as the client in the thing how to respond, like, do you have a response? And then I would give it a response. And so we went through this process where it was giving me a Dr. John DeMartini session. And at the end, I said, what strategies did you use? And it listed 10 strategies that it used and linked to Dr. John DeMartini's philosophies. And
oh, wow.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I'm like, wow, this is really cool, right? And I've played around with a few other identities as far as therapists or philosophers and things like that, and having conversations about, here's this issue. If I was to navigate it in the style of, say, Peter Crone, who's a therapist and coach, if I was to navigate this in the style of Peter Crone, how would I do that? And so it's amazing. It uses the language of that person, and it's not
that is amazing.
Yeah, and it's not as good as what I would say if I was listening to a Peter Crone take somebody through a process. It's not as good as that, but it's very very aligned to the language and the steps that you use. And then just asking it, is there anything I can is there anything else you need to know to optimize this task? Then so basically it's telling you how to prompt it to create the best result possible, which is amazing. So that's ChatGPT. And then the image generation, I've been using Midjourney, but there's no feedback from Midjourney other than the image. And so it's a very sort of one directional process at the moment. You can't say, and it does hilarious things, right? It'll put people's arms on backwards, or you ask it to create a group of people, and then half the people's faces will be melted, or one side of their face will be really distorted. And so it's you got to watch it. And it's the same with the language generation. It's I've got to really make sure I read it, check it, edit it, because there's errors that get in there. And I know around I can't remember whose theory it is, but he talks about that AI is not going to take over the world. It's going to eat itself, because what's happening is it's creating information that's not 100% correct. And then other AI is accessing that information, taking it as 100% correct. And so there's this deficit cycle that's happening, that the AI is operating on less and less correct information. And so as we go into the future, it's actually has the possibility of degenerating and not working at all, because it's just accessing false information from billions of AI sources.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So which links into what you're saying. It links into what you're saying about things not being, how do you tell the difference between what's real and what's not?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe this is actually the peak AI right now, and it's just going to get worse from here.
Possibly. But then they'll create some AI to watch over the AI.
Yeah.
I don't know what comes after. And it'll be called RI, Real Intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you've got a project that you've been doing with, you've created a film and then you're playing live with a band.
Yeah. Yeah. So during COVID, we were touring the Leader of the Resistance show. We were doing Fringe festivals and stuff, and we were down in Adelaide doing the Fringe festival down there, and then obviously everything got cancelled. So on the way back from there, we made a short web series called The Road Warrior, and it was basically just it was using the idea of isolation, but instead of being in your bedroom with isolated like everyone else was, because we're on the road, we sort of turned it into this Mad Max thing. So when Eddie lost all of his gigs, he sort of went wandering into the desert. And so yeah, that was a 5-part web series exploring that. And then we went and worked on this film for 6 months. And I remember just watching these guys. There was it was $100 million production, and I was watching these guys with all of these flash cameras and all the most high-end gear and just so much wastage. And I remember thinking, I reckon I could make a film. I reckon the two of us could do that. So we set about making a film that was an extension of that, of what happens to this Eddie guy when all of his gigs got cancelled during COVID and he went wandering off into the bush. And it was crazy because we were making it at the exact same time as things were happening in real time. So when I was talking about getting a band together and using this sort of parallel of an outlaw motorcycle gang, at the time we actually were outlaws because it was illegal to play music and it was illegal to dance. So it was really fun just kind of exploring this idea of what would happen if music never came back. And at the time we actually didn't know if it would come back. So it was this really crazy time of just going out with a camera and just making light of the situation because we didn't know what else to do, and it was so such a hectic time. So yeah, so the film is a comedy and it goes for about an hour, and then it was just a beast of creativity. We just wanted to get really busy and just use the time to be as creative as possible and just to keep trying to make light in the world when it was feeling so dark and heavy, So yeah, so then I went into the studio and I recorded 14 original tracks, and so it's a bit of a musical. And then then we got the band together, and now we tour it as a live show. So it's heaps of fun. It's just I've been called the new Yahoo Serious by a couple of people. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's I'll take it.
Yeah, that's going back a bit. Thinking about
yeah
the Yahoo crazy hair guy. I don't remember seeing him doing anything else other than the Yahoo Serious. Was it just one movie? I can't remember.
Yeah. No. Well, the story is he had some money, inheritance or something from his grandmother, and him and his friends made Young Einstein, and it was a huge hit. And then after that, he went off on his own and left his friends out of the writing process and wrote what was it called? It was a Ned Kelly thing. It was what was it called? Something. Anyway, it was a Ned Kelly comedy takeoff, and apparently that was a massive flop. And then he did another one called Mr. Accident, and that was an even bigger flop. And I think now he's works with orangutans in Thailand or something. Wow. I think he just it didn't go so well for him.
Yeah. Possibly finding more fulfilling being with the orangutans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the natural progression.
And so you've just been in Darwin with your show, and then you've got more coming up.
So we've just done 12 shows. We've played at a few festivals, and then the last one was Darwin Festival, and then we've just done a Sunny Coast tour around here as well. And my amazing drummer has just moved to Scotland, so we're sort of working out what to do next, because the band is actually in the film. So every time a band member leaves, I've got to reshoot a whole bunch of scenes with the with the new person and then edit it in. So yeah, we're sort of working out now whether we make a sequel or what the next step is. But yeah, that's our gigs for this year so far. So
you need to AI their
see what
face in.
happens.
The new band member,
Yeah.
you got to AI them in.
I might have to.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so, with your turning point, making that change from government job to climbing trees professionally to get lychees, what would you say you're grateful for from that experience of not being happy in the government job?
I'm grateful for so much. I think a big thing for me was because I'm the youngest of four, and I always sort of grew up feeling like I didn't belong, and I always grew up sort of feeling like something was wrong with me, and I didn't fit anywhere I was, and I felt like I just spent my whole life trying to fit into certain different scenarios that were never me, and whether that be family life or in relationships or jobs. And so when I left Brisbane and went traveling and found other people like me, it made me realize that sometimes when you think you're broken and there's something wrong with you, it can actually just be your situation and your surroundings. And so by making that change and getting out of there, I realized that yeah, it wasn't me, it was just that I was in the wrong place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty profound actually, because now whenever I visit Brisbane, I still get that same feeling. As soon as even just driving through there, I just feel like I don't like being here. This isn't my place. I don't belong here. And it's really weird to grow up feeling like you don't belong, and that you're in some way, there's something wrong with you, and then to realize, oh, maybe I'm just not meant to be here at this time or with these people, and there's other situations out there, and there's other people out there, and maybe you'll find your tribe somewhere else. And yeah, it's a big moment for me.
Yeah, I can imagine it had a big impact on your sense of self-worth.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I think moving to Darwin, I realized, like I was saying earlier, that there was a different version of me that I believe is the true me, that was always there, that I never actually uncovered until I moved there. And then meeting people who were sort of my people, I felt like it was the only place where I felt like I could be myself, if that makes sense. And yeah, and then to be able to actually nurture that part of myself and discover myself, yeah, it was huge, and I never knew it was possible. So yeah.
I'm curious, right? Do you think, being the fourth child, and I'm possibly projecting here, but you have so many people in front of you telling you what to do and how to be when you grow up. Do you think that, did you feel like that was playing out, and that fosters self-doubt, and then from you going, actually no, I know this isn't working, I'm going to try this, did that change that in some way?
Oh yeah, I don't know, that's an interesting question. I guess in a large family, there's sort of like a lot of a lot of things are already taken up, a lot of roles already taken up. So you've already got your deep thinker and your high achiever and your pensive one. So by the time I come along, it's like, oh, well, I guess light entertainment. You sort of end up slotting into that group and finding a dynamic that fits in there, I guess. And yeah, and in a lot of ways, maybe that shapes who you are because Amy's the same. She's the youngest in her family, and I think you sort of end up being really cued into other people's energies and other people's agendas and stuff because you're the smallest one, so you're always kind of watching everyone else. And I think maybe it I don't know what it's done to me. It's definitely made me sort of more sensitive to other people's energies, I guess, always being around other bigger personalities. I don't know, it's a funny one.
I could see that it would benefit you as a performer to have that sensitivity to other people when you're performing and creating performances and getting feedback from an audience, and then actually they responded as that, or that really sunk, that didn't work so well.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's definitely a skill set, definitely, to be able to sort of alter your performance depending on what your audience is, but sometimes to your detriment. You end up, there might be 100 people loving your show, and you've probably experienced this too. There'll be lots of people loving what you're doing, and you'll find the one person who looks bored or is hating it, and you for some reason always just zero in on that person and go, oh no, they hate it, they hate me. And it's do you experience that as
about 1,000 times?
Yeah.
I remember doing this gig with Ryan. So for people that don't know, so Ryan, so we've got a duo that we play occasionally these days, the Brothers Calling. But we were doing a gig and there was this guy that was really attentive and watching it and into it. And then he came up to us at the end and started talking to us. And he looked at Ryan and said, "You're amazing. You're amazing." And then he looked at me and said, to make sure you don't give up your day job. And then looked back at Ryan and said, you need to get rid of him. And yeah. And that was, we laughed at the time. And then the guy walked off and I was like, oh, what a fucking jerk. And then I was so angry for a couple of days. And then what I did was I just kind of flipped it and went, you know what? Thank you for the inspiration. I wanted to get better. I wanted to improve. You've opened up that doorway for me to see into myself that I actually want to improve. And so that became, not a, I'm going to show you, just a thank you for showing me, but don't ever fucking come into my life ever again. Stay away.
Yeah. Oh man, that is brutal.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So, but
I don't understand how people do that.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing with this idea.
So brutal.
Yeah, it was. And I've been playing with this idea that when someone says something to me that really lands, be it, in a good way or a challenging way, it's my voice telling me what I was unable to tell myself so that I can grow. And so I've been playing around with that idea a lot, and it's really interesting one to go, that really hurt, but I needed to hear it on some level. And I use the inner critic kind of stuff as well, and say, the inner critic's hammering me that I should be this or should be that and shouldn't. But there's possibly an element of truth to what the inner critic is saying, and I'm rejecting that element of truth. And then if I listen to it, I can go, okay, I hear you, but I'm doing this anyway. And so, but yeah, the voices of people coming back to me as my soul's voice talking through them. And then like, if I put that lens on, how do I respond?
Wow, You're a very strong man. I just would have flipped it if someone said that to me.
I was so shocked because he was so into the show, but he was into Ryan and resenting my parts in the show.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I do, that guy didn't quite possibly, I wasn't the only source of dislike in his life.
Yeah.
But
Well, a wise man once told me that you should never take criticism from someone if you wouldn't ask them for advice. So if some random bloke at the pub starts telling you how to do your job better, you think, well, I don't think I would just ask this guy for life advice, because he's just some random that, you know, possibly doesn't know anything about music, or yeah, it's a tricky one. People just giving you unsolicited advice.
yeah. Well, I remember someone telling me that if someone comes up to give you a compliment, receive it, because it's taken them courage to give you the compliment, and it's coming from a place of courage. And the criticism, I often find, if it makes me angry, there's something in it. But then when I go into it, if I find that it's not true, it just makes me more convinced and reaffirmed to keep going. And I think that's a big one for creatives, is learning to handle criticism, because you know, you imagine the level of criticism that Coldplay or Ed Sheeran get. It would just, there's millions of people every day saying that they're whatever, right? They're trying to pull them down, and that must be a really interesting exercise. But I find as creatives grow, it's like, there's this level of criticism I have to get used to, and then this level, and then this level. And like you said, you know, the unsolicited advice, you know, thinking about this one time, this guy coming up to me and saying, the music was amazing. And he said to me, and I really like your enthusiasm. And I was like, he liked everyone else's music, but he liked my enthusiasm. Is that a compliment, or is he putting me down? So now, you know, so I had to process that, like, what does it mean when someone's saying enthusiasm? And then, of course, I don't really know. So then when feedback like that comes up again, I'm more able to process it. It's like the concentric circles of feedback receiving. I don't think I could handle what Ed Sheeran and Coldplay have to go through.
Oh no. I mean, I almost shield myself from criticism, and like I say, if I see someone and I think they don't like me, they don't like what I'm doing, I just won't talk to them, because I just can't handle. Because I've had a few of those where people just give you a dressing down after a show and tell you that they hated what you did or prefer you did X, Y, Z, and you know, and it used to just really drive me nuts, because I guess I was too unsure of myself, you know, to just go, no, I'm fine, whatever. I would always go, maybe they're right, maybe I do suck. And I mean, the amount of times I've almost given up on the whole thing, because I've just gone, I can't do it anymore. I'm sick of hearing people's opinions and hearing people's negativity, and it does wear you down sometimes, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people quit, but something I see with you is that, and I really admire this, is you keep reinventing yourself, and the quality of your work is exceptional, right? Like the quality of everything from your graphics to your music. And I love your music. And if you're listening, I'm going to play 2 songs at the end of the podcast, so Mark's music will take you out. And awesome. There's one called Be Yourself, and I remember earlier in the interview you were just saying about be yourself. That was one of the lessons, is that you can be yourself. So if you you go
on it, I was just going to say, that's kind of I try and make music that I needed to listen to when I was younger. I think everything I try and do, I just want to imagine if I was 15 or 16 and when I was feeling really lost and didn't know who I was and stuff, I think I want to make art for for him, you know. So I want to make movies that are funny, that have motorbikes in them, that have cool music, and I want the music to be uplifting, and I want to always just say that it's okay to be yourself, because I don't think there's enough of that in the world. You know, I think we're always being told you have to be these other people and you have to strive for greatness, or you have to squash other people in order to make your own success, and the nice guys finish last, you know, and it's just not true. And I just want to spread that word, you know, that it's okay to be a good person. It's okay to be nice to people, and it's okay to have empathy and be human, because that doesn't make you weak. That actually makes you strong, you know. And I think that's what I just want to portray in my music, you know, because I'm so sick of the narrative that you have to be this, you know, Kanye West, Donald Trump kind of polarizing person to be successful. I think yeah, I'm trying to fight that narrative, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think you're doing very well. And my last question was going to be, what would you tell your younger self? And I think we might wrap it up, and I'll let the song Be Yourself, you know, advocate for that younger version of yourself. Before I do,
Awesome.
where can people connect with you? I'll put it in the show notes, but is there, if someone wants to check out your music or get in touch with you?
Yeah, so theeddieray.com is all the stuff on there about the shows and links to music and film clips. Also Burger Joint Band on the socials and stuff like that. Yeah, check it out. There's stuff up there.
Great. Yes, and we didn't end up chatting much about Burger Joint, but we've
Yeah.
you know, I love you guys so much. You penciled in for my birthday party. So
Yeah. Sign me up. Sounds amazing.
yeah. Well, and links will be in the show notes. And Mark Gray, thanks for coming on Beyond Turning Points.
Oh, thanks for having me. Awesome.
Yeah, real pleasure having you on. And this is Be Yourself by Burger Joint.